All right, let's just get right into it. Windows. You know, the operating system that runs on, what, over a billion devices? It holds almost 70% of the desktop market, and yet it is in the middle of a full-blown crisis. And the loudest critics? Well, they're not Apple or Google. They're its own users.
I mean, look at this comment. This was posted right under a Microsoft announcement, and it just perfectly nails the sense of betrayal that so many people are feeling. And believe me, this isn't just one angry person online. This sentiment is absolutely blowing up.
And what's really interesting here is that this feedback is coming from everybody. You've got your everyday users who feel like the computer they bought for hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars, isn't really theirs anymore. And then you have the power users, the developers, who are just completely fed up.
So that really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? How did the biggest, most dominant operating system in the world end up making its own users feel like it's working against them? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down.
Okay, so to really understand this whole crisis, we first have to look at the symptoms, all the little decisions and so-called features that have just chipped away at user trust and created this constant feeling of annoyance.
Let's start right at the beginning, setting up your computer. Microsoft is actively getting rid of the ability to create a simple, local, offline account. They're even patching out the workarounds people find. They are trying to force every single person into their online world, demanding a Microsoft account and an internet connection just to use the PC you already own.
And then, oh yeah, there are the ads. People are firing up their computers and finding their start menu, you know, the heart of the whole Windows experience, is just littered with ads and recommendations for junk they don't want. And the frustration is so simple. If you paid for a product, you shouldn't be the product. You shouldn't have to see ads.
And of course, we have to talk about the relentless push into AI. Features like Copilot are being shoved into everything, from the File Explorer to super basic apps like Paint and Notepad, whether you want them or not. It feels like this strategy of just putting AI everywhere without stopping to ask, hey, does this actually make things better for the user?
But, you know, beyond all the annoying features, there's a really deep problem with just stability. We're caught in this crazy cycle where a new patch comes out to fix one thing, but it breaks two other things. Then an emergency fix comes out to solve those problems, and it causes even more chaos. We're talking about systems being left in a worse state than before. For a professional, this isn't just annoying, it could ruin their whole day's work.
And if you want the perfect example of the disconnect between Microsoft and its users, look no further than Recall. They announced this tool that would constantly take screenshots of everything you do. They tried to sell it as this helpful memory tool, but users and security experts immediately called it what it was: a massive privacy invasion and a security nightmare. I mean, a goldmine of your personal data just sitting there. The backlash was so fast and so furious, Microsoft had to slam the brakes and pull it.
So all of these symptoms, the ads, the forced accounts, the constant bugs, they all point to something much deeper. And to find that root cause, well, you just have to follow the money.
And let's be crystal clear. Financially, Microsoft is doing better than ever. Their value is soaring into the trillions. But that incredible success creates this massive paradox.
This quote from a tech analyst just cuts right to the heart of it. How can one of the richest, most powerful companies on the planet let its most famous product, the very thing that built the company, get this bad? Well, the answer goes back to a huge shift in strategy that happened a few years ago.
So back in 2014, when Satya Nadella became CEO, he basically steered the entire ship in a completely new direction. The old focus of selling individual Windows licenses to people like you and me, that was out. The new focus was all about huge enterprise clients, cloud services like Azure, and subscriptions like Office 365.
And just look at this chart. That strategy has been a massive home run for shareholders. Cloud services are now the lion's share of the money coming in. And that slice for individual Windows users, well, it's become a pretty small piece of the pie. And here's the bottom line. When your frustrations don't threaten those billion-dollar cloud contracts, they're just not the #1 priority anymore.
And people have noticed this shift. They really have. Faced with an OS that doesn't seem to care about them, a growing number of users are fed up and are actively looking for an escape hatch.
And a lot of them are landing on Linux, which is just built on a totally different philosophy. Where Windows is all about data collection and locking you into their world, Linux is about user control and privacy. It's the difference between being a user of a product and being the owner of your own machine.
Now, for years, the big thing holding Linux back was gaming. But what's so fascinating is that Valve, the company that runs Steam, is completely changing that. Their SteamOS is making Linux a seriously powerful and easy-to-use alternative for millions of PC gamers. They're essentially building a bridge for people to cross over from Windows.
Okay, let's be real for a second. At around 67% market share, Windows is still the undisputed king of the hill. Nobody's denying that. But that number is the lowest it has been in decades. The tide is turning, and for the first time in a very long time, there's actual real competition on the desktop.
So, where does all this leave us? I mean, what's the future of your desktop going to look like? Well, Microsoft is a giant, and it's not totally deaf. All this pressure is actually starting to work.
Microsoft's president of Windows has actually come out and publicly acknowledged these user pain points. He's promised to refocus on performance and making things reliable again. And we're hearing they're even rethinking that whole AI in everything strategy, realizing that, yeah, maybe you don't need an AI assistant inside Notepad.
But here's the thing. After years of being ignored and frustrated, a lot of longtime users are just skeptical. This quote sums up that distrust perfectly. The feeling is, okay, you're saying the right things now, but we've been burned before. We're not getting our hopes up.
And this really brings us to the most important takeaway of all. Fixing some bugs or walking back a bad feature, that's just putting a band-aid on the problem. The core issue isn't the software itself. It's the entire corporate strategy, a strategy that puts cloud profits and shareholder value way ahead of the experience of the person actually using the computer.
And that leaves all of us with one final massive question. Even if Microsoft manages to make Windows better, is it too little too late? Have they broken that trust for good? Is our future just a slightly less annoying Windows? Or are we on the verge of a huge shift in how we think about our computers? The interesting thing is, that choice is increasingly becoming yours to make.